Good morning. This is Christy Weedy, the principal at Longino Elementary. Thank you for taking the time to review our data with us, as well as our plans for making this data better in the upcoming year. We're going to start off with our STAR reading scores by grade level compared to the state. So as you can see, in third grade and fourth grade, we're pretty close to the state. And then in fifth grade, we're a little under the state in reading. I would like to point out, when reviewing the state versus actual Longino, the state's economically disadvantaged rate is 61.5, and ours here at Longino is 76.54. So the data is not exactly apples to apples when you look at our economically disadvantaged students, whom we have seen during COVID have had a greater impact on their educational success due to the gaps that were created by COVID closures. Also in reading, I have two additional sets of information. The one on the left is what they call the COVID slide. I'm sure you've heard some other principals talk about this. So it shows what Region 10 was, what Texas was, and what Longino was. So the COVID slide is what our scores were at this campus in 2019 compared to what they are now. So that's the difference. So we did have quite a bit of COVID slide in fifth grade reading, which explains why our numbers were lower, but we had less in fourth and third grade. The most important data, I think, to look at is the one on the right that refers to our comparable groups. The state ranks all of the schools and puts you in a group of 40 comparable schools, meaning you have the same demographic type information. So when you look at these numbers, in third grade, we are 15 out of 40 and approaching, 13 out of 40 in meets, and 34 out of 40 in fifth grade. So we're outperforming almost all of our other groups in our 40. We're actually even in the top half in a lot of those areas. So even though when you just look at the scores as a whole, it's important to look at this comparable group piece because we're performing better than a lot of our other comparable schools in reading. So what's the plan? The district has hired a new literacy coach to help guide our ELAR teachers, as well as they've contracted Robin Hartzell. She's going to help work on the scope and sequence and our new lesson plan outline. We are increasing our focus on balanced literacy, especially in the lower grades. We found that they were not quite implementing guided reading and some of the things that we would like to see that help build those foundational reading skills, which is part of the reason our students are coming into the upper grades without having those skills. So we will be focusing on that and holding teachers accountable for that. The way we're going to do that is we're going to have data walls, and we're going to make them track their DRA levels for their students, which is their reading levels, and we're going to meet with them every 6 weeks to make sure that they are increasing, and if not, then we're going to see what other interventions we can add for those students. We also, in our schedule, and this will help with all areas, we have a dedicated reading intervention time as well as a dedicated math intervention time. So there's two 30-minute periods in the day that are dedicated just to intervention. Last year we only had one set time, therefore some kids did not get the math intervention that they needed or vice versa. We also purchased a new guided reading library with books that are a little more current and interesting for our students. We have also purchased LLI kits, which is it's called Level Literacy Intervention. So we're going to run that program in addition to our System 44, iRead, and Read 180 programs. This targets like 6 kids at a time. It's been a very effective program. I've used it in another district, so I'm looking forward to having a group of kids that we run through that program and see how it improves their reading abilities. We've also added an additional SPED teacher to assist our resource and inclusion students, because our plan is to make sure that we keep those resource students in the general ed classroom for the content portion of the lesson, with a special ed teacher in there to help support them, and then pull them out just for modifications to their assignments or if they need some reteaching. So hopefully that will help those students. A lot of the students that we had fail, especially in fifth grade, were our special education students who are in resource. These slides will be the same. So as you can see, in math, we were higher than the state in third grade, a little bit lower in fourth grade, and higher in fifth grade. Our COVID slide in fifth grade, we were actually, we kind of went up a little bit. Fourth grade, we had quite a bit of slide, and third grade, not quite so much. And so again, they're still, the fourth and third grade, pretty comparable to the state. And then with our comparable group of 40, in third grade, we're 8, 11, and 9. and then 30, 20, and 12 in fourth, and 18, 14, and 22. And remember, those indicate in third grade we're 8 out of the 40 and approaching 11, and so on and so forth. So again, we are outperforming our comparable groups as well. Our plan for math, again, involves that dedicated reading intervention, dedicated intervention time just for math, not with reading. Those data meetings will be conducted, and we'll look at math data, not just ELAR data. We are going to start working on fact fluency as a campus, because that seems to be one of the things that holds our kids up, is just their ability to recall those facts. And again, those changes to our special education structure will also help with our math scores. Our writing scores were way below the state, and I think a lot of that is due to just having to teach virtually and in person. A, at the same time takes more time, and B, it's extremely difficult to teach students how to read and to conference with them and edit their compositions the way that they need to be when they're doing it virtually online. And their typing skills aren't very well, so they actually wrote less when they were typing as they would have had they been handwriting it in class. Our COVID slide, we had quite a bit of COVID slide in writing, again, for the same reasons that we just listed. But when you look at us compared to our comparable 40, we are not at the bottom. We're just a little, like 4 from the bottom on approaching, but we're at 28 and 17 for our meets and masters. So we are still making progress with those kids. There will not be a standalone writing test this year. The writing is going to be integrated into the ELAR, so that will help as well. We are going to implement writing across the curriculum, where students are required to have written responses in all subject areas, and we will collect those and monitor those to make sure that they are being done. And we will also focus on written responses to questions in all subjects to help assist with this new implementation of the writing being in the ELAR STAR assessment. This writing across curriculum, not only will it help with content knowledge in all subject areas, it will also hopefully help improve our TELPAS writing scores. We have lots of students who are limited English proficient that are not able to exit from LEP status because they are not scoring advanced high on their writing. So hopefully doing writing every day in a variety of formats will help them be more successful on their TELPAS writing samples. Our science scores are 4 points above the state. We had less COVID slide than the Region 10 and the state, and we are also outperforming our comparable groups as well in approaching meets and masters in science. So for science, again, that writing across the curriculum is going to help, and then we are also going to start trying to implement more science text into the ELAR classroom. I know that the writing, the ELAR test, as it changes over the next couple of years, that is one of the things that they're going to be doing on STAR, is putting more of the social studies and science passages into the reading test. So we're going to start and be proactive and get ahead of that. That is our data and our plan as of right now. It's kind of bare bones, but when we work on our CIP, we will make sure that we have very detailed plans and hope to have much better scores next year. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day.